So welcome to my left, Andrew Fineran, Inner West Sydney Breweries Association and also Local Drinks Collective. Josh Donohoe, Sunshine Coast Craft Beer Tours, representing the Sunshine Coast sort of cluster. And then Paul Maley from South West Brewers Alliance, WA, Shelter Brewing. Thanks, guys.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, look at you guys, engaged,
Legends.
active, well done. So the purpose of this discussion today that we're really hoping that the 8 of you take away is how you can inspire the other people that you are going to take this, evangelise, is to work with others to achieve more for the brewing industry and to achieve more specifically for your local area. So I'm going to kick off. We've got 4 questions, hoping it's painless and enjoyable. But guys, I was hoping you could tell me, and maybe Paul will start with you, sort of how did the South West Brewers Alliance get started? When did it get started? What's your origin story?
Thanks, Sabrina. The South West Brewers Alliance officially started in early 2021. The Department of Primary Industry and Regional Development, or DPIRB, ran a partnerships industry meet and spoke about lots of industries in the region about how to create partnerships within the regions. And shortly after that, because most of the breweries were there, we sat down and spoke about creating a South West Brewers Alliance. Lots of work was done beforehand, and I think Keith Warwick from Eagle Bay and Ilya Hastings from Brewhouse certainly put a lot of effort, over obviously a lot of beers, in just really sharing the common issues that they both faced, and that led to the Brewers Alliance. And John Berry, he might be in the room, really helped get all the breweries together, and at that point we said, yep, there's some things that we can achieve together. We were really, in the early days, really careful that we've got a great organisation in the IBA, we've got a great organisation in Western Australia with WABA. We didn't want to step on their toes or get into that part of what those organisations do well for our industry. We wanted to really drill down on the specifics that we all felt we had issues with and could achieve something together, and they were the key principles. So we started 4 subgroups from there. We meet every quarter and have been going ever since.
And how many breweries do you have involved in the region?
So there's 12 breweries and 11 are members of the South West Brewers Alliance. There's a couple coming and going as things happen in the industry. So I think a couple more will join in the next couple of months. But there's 10. Everyone joins in. Everyone has joined a subgroup and is committed to contributing to the alliance, as well as paying a small membership fee as well.
So you guys started sort of a couple of years ago. It was a little informal and it's gotten a little bit more formal.
Yeah.
Joshua, turning to you guys, your origin story for how the Sunny Coast Brewers have sort of become the craft beer capital was a little more organic.
Yeah, that's right. So, look, we probably started around 2018, and at that point we probably had maybe 5 or 6 breweries on the coast. So it was a very informal and aptly named Brewers Social, which was around having a few beers and catching up. But I think collectively we had a lot of similar issues at the same time, which we were trying to address. So organically we came together to say, how are you dealing with this? How can we help with this? What can we do better as a group than individually? So from there it grew to be a more regular social catch-up. So every couple of months, each brewery would host, we'd rotate who that host was. And from there, the organic growth has been pretty amazing. We've had not just social catch-ups, but we've had opportunities for training and development too. So those things have been added in place of perhaps that every month catch-up. It's been an industry training and development opportunity, but also an opportunity to invite people like our regional tourism, local council, to meet with and see what that industry is doing. So it provided a platform for them to see what was actually happening. And then fast forward to 2021, Visit Sunshine Coast launched their marketing campaign as Australia's craft beer capital because we had that huge growth. So, that came about from them being able to see the growth, come along to those meetings, talk to the brewers, and see what was happening with the industry. So that was probably the formalising of that group, or the strength collaboratively of that group. And look, it's gone from strength to strength from there.
And we'll come back to how a tour operator, like the different models that have really brought the groups together. But Andrew, can you give a little bit of the genesis story of the Inner West Association?
Yeah, we, I don't even remember when we started, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it was like maybe 2015 or 2016. But it was born out of the fact that we had a lot more breweries in Marrickville, or in the Inner West rather, that we have one council that was kind of like, we're all getting different versions of what we should be doing from our council and our local kind of government authorities. And so we'd all be talking to each other like, did they tell you your capacity is this, or are you allowed to serve schooners, or do you have to, like, what is it? So we kind of said we have to get together and try and create a body that actually talks to government, our local government, because obviously IBA is doing the national government piece, but we needed to talk to local and state government and try and move the dial on things so we could operate a lot more smoothly and freely. Namely, like things I said before, that we had some capacity issues, what we're allowed to serve with office liquor and gaming, where we kind of got them to actually identify what a brewery is. Things like that. So and also the amount of space that we're allowed to use for retail in our venues. New South Wales has been traditionally very strict on a lot of this stuff. So there's been a bit of lobbying from this group once we came together. Pete, Philip, and Richard Adamson did a huge job, and because they're both part of this, did a huge job in lobbying them. So we got a lot of hurdles overcome through that. And then during COVID and everything, we kind of went a bit dormant. Recently, actually, in the past few weeks, we've kind of revitalized this. New South Wales is putting in a heap of money for precinct districts, and so the brewers we're coming back together again to work together to try and create Marrickville and a couple other small breakout precincts from there, but working together to try and get some funding to draw tourism and all that kind of stuff together. So we're kind of in a second wave of the Inner West Brewers Association.
And what I heard from all three of you was sort of there was a pain point. Individual breweries couldn't solve it on their own. You started to work together in different ways, a lot to do with local council. Paul, are you able to sort of tell us, what are some of those pain points that existed, or what are some of the wins that you've had in addressing what was a local issue?
Look, we've been really successful in having some really big wins, just in establishing the South West Brewers Alliance. So we've really worked hard on logistics. So in terms of, obviously we're all 2.5 to 3.5 hours south of Perth. So it's a big play for us. So working together as a group to get better pricing on logistics has been a really quick win and a really easy win that we could do as a group. I mean, just establishing a charter, putting a brand together, putting a website together, just as a group, again, just showed, region, again, Deep Herb and the state government and the local governments that we're organised. We have huge amounts of influence in the region with staffing, etc. So putting those things together really made us look serious. We're not just brewing beer in the backyard. We're big businesses and we have a big influence on these regions, and so let's take it seriously. So that's really helped in establishing that. And then finally, just community-wise, we did collab beers. We've raised over $40,000 worth of cash on 2 specific local projects in Busselton that have given back to the community. So you're seeing breweries come together and work together to have some not just commercial outcomes, but some community outcomes as well.
Awesome.
And so, Josh, you just got back from Beervana, representing the Sunshine Coast and Sunshine Coast breweries. And can you talk to us about sort of, that's come about as a direct result of the working together by the breweries, but also sort of your expertise in tourism, and so where you've really taken that group and the work you've done is that tourism sort of export side. So can you talk about that big win?
Yeah, so I'm a little battle weary from 5 days in Wellington, but what an awesome festival Beervana is. But what a great opportunity we had, I guess, as a region, and that's come a lot to do with Visit Sunshine Coast, who's our regional tourism organisation, embracing craft beer, including it in their marketing campaigns as a pillar of things to do on the Sunshine Coast. Now, it took a lot of work to get to that point, but now we're there, they've fully embraced it. So last year they ran a marketing campaign at the festival itself, which was like a scavenger hunt thing. You could win a trip to the sunny coast, win a trip on a brewery tour. But it was about engaging a market, which is New Zealand, which is a very big tourism market for Sunshine Coast. So that was the first step. This year they said, well, let's up that a little. And Bivana were very forward in saying, well, what if we gave you a store? What if we brought 3 of your breweries over and you could showcase what you do? So that was an amazing opportunity, which included Visit Sunshine Coast support, support from local government, and also the Food and Agri-Business Network, which is a local cluster that supports producers and growers, but also brewers that are members under that banner. So really they offset a lot of costs like flights and freight. Freight is insane to get to New Zealand. So we had this great support to cover that. So really it was almost a cost neutral for the brewers to go. And collectively we were able to promote the region. By taking 3 brewers there, we could promote their beer, but also the quality of our beer. So it ticked a lot of boxes, but it had a lot of people involved to make that happen. But yeah, I can honestly say that was a super win for the Sunny Coast. And we'll be back there next year promoting all those key elements at the same time. And look, some of those guys have got contracts now to sell into New Zealand, so they've got some direct benefits. But collectively, we promoted the region, and that was pretty strong, yeah.
And Andrew,
Awesome.
what are some of the biggest wins you guys have had? I mean, there's been some grant funding that's come through for tourism, trails, but what are some of the biggest wins that you think you guys have identified?
To be honest, I think for us, the biggest ones, as I mentioned before, some of the what's the right terminology for? I guess the government changes, I suppose. So I think that really was, and it's the reason why we formed. It was a huge area of unknown for the entire group. We literally were getting different messages from everywhere else. So the fact that we are now all able to operate with a lot more certainty with our businesses in terms of our licensing and then how the council also looks at us is it was a big win, because that, like, going to government bodies is like, I mean, it's a huge unknown, and unless you know how to operate that, it's just, you can look at it and just sit there, it just makes your head explode. So with collectively, we had the right people who were able to pull those white papers, whatever you want to call it, those papers together, and they knew how to do it. And once you have someone that knows how to do it, it's like, okay, we need to lobby in this particular way. So I think for us, I think that's the biggest. We've had a lot of other little wins along the way too, but being able to change policy to make it easier for everyone to operate. And as you can see, that we have more breweries coming into the Inner West now, because it's actually so much easier to set up a brewery in that area now because of the work that we've done for local government and stuff like that.
So I guess, guys, you know, we're hearing there was an obstacle, work together, get benefit, but there's been sort of the dollar benefit, so be it through business operations efficiency or be it through actual sort of grants and assistance or overseas expertise, but there's also been this sort of community benefit, albeit through the ability to do joined up community programs, or through, quite frankly, people on the Sunshine Coast being able to be proud of the fact that they are from the Sunshine Coast or the inner Sydney. Is there any sort of, is there any downside to working together other than the caveat, the time that the volunteers have to put in to wrangle everybody to work together? Are there any other sort of challenges? Like, what would be the downside for folks if they're sitting there thinking, I think our region has problems with X? Is there any sort of reason not to work as a collective?
Go for it.
No, I don't think so. Like, I think. Look, it is.
It was a little leading, but that's fine.
It is time consuming. There are differing opinions, but at the end of the day, I think it's good to be able to get the opinions of everyone in your area, so that you can at least share challenges, issues, and wins. And then you can feed off each other. And if you're looking at it from the perspective of if collectively we're all doing well, or we help each other at least through sharing information, it makes the business more sustainable. And then in our particular situation, the more we work together, in theory, the more people come to the area because they're having better experiences if we put programs, et cetera, in place. So the new thing that we're working on is this Uptown Accelerator program with these precincts, and that could be some grant money, and it's, I think it's actually a really exciting program, and it makes it like, I went to the orientation program on Monday, and I watched all the other groups that had submitted. Most of them are just businesses, have no association. They just said, "Yep, let's do it. We'll try and put this pitch together." I realized that we are way ahead of everybody else, because we actually have an industry association that has common goals and a common outcome that we can put something together a lot more, just way easier than everybody else can. That should get us success, I think. So
bigger impact, more businesses.
Yeah.
You're not speaking alone.
Yeah.
Anything that you guys wanted to add there?
Look, no, there's no reason you shouldn't collaborate, but there will be challenges. And I think if we looked at the keynote speaker this morning talking about what happened in the US and how long it took and what kind of commitment it took, you have to give. People have to give their time. You have to have people who are prepared to contribute when the goal might be a long way away. And I think there's no reason you shouldn't do that. We've been really fortunate that we've been able to make those connections. And I'm grateful. I think our region is grateful that we have had forward-thinking tourism and now council. And I think identifying the key people, again, is really important. So, permits and planning are all about setting everything up. That's a pretty challenging component of council. But economic development can be your best friends. They want to see jobs. They want to see growth. So you want to get in with them, because they can help drive all those other things. So there is no reason. It's not going to be easy, but that shouldn't be the reason that you don't get involved and make it happen. Yeah.
And Paul, part of, for you guys, you're geographically a bit different, right? And so there's sort of this natural break about who's in our cluster and who isn't. But, it also means that volunteers are finite. You've received some support from the WA government, providing a part-time admin.
Yep.
Talk about the difference that's made in terms of having someone that kind of provides a bit of structure to kicking it down the road.
Yeah. No, most definitely. There's no reason not to get involved, and we are very lucky to have been supported by Deep Herb right from the beginning with Tash, and that was allowing us access to the person half a day a week, which allowed arranging meetings, following up on contacts, just keep putting some structure in place, because we all obviously can get very busy and things can get 3 months can turn into 6 months, turns to 9 months, so that allowed things to keep moving. But I think everyone's worried you're going to put this effort in, you're not going to get anything back. But you might not get back the specific thing that you're hoping to get, but the communication, the community that you create, just, you get back in twice as much. And that's certainly been, I think I saw Emma from Beer Farm here recently just saying the same thing. I went in expecting X, but I got Y plus a lot more. So I think that's been, hugely beneficial.
It certainly sounds like collaboration and connection has been the theme over the last couple of days, and that pays dividends. You guys are all in fairly different regions, so like a good spread across Australia, but there's obviously lots more areas that could be sort of clusters and working closely together. Any tips for how breweries should get started working together? Anyone? Josh?
I'm going to dive straight in and say you're not going to get everyone right at the start. So if you've got a few people on board, it might be just a couple of brewers, it might be a local craft beer bar, it could be a distiller, someone you've got some connectivity with, some common ground with, some common goals with. Just get started, because it's impossible to get everyone on board all at the same time. So I would recommend making a start with those key people who are interested. The rest will come with you.
Yeah, if you just start talking to each other and then like, hey, we're talking about this, and then it might start to happen, it might not, but that's the best way. I agree.
Do you need a driver? Do you need like someone who's doing the regular follow-ups, or does it become quite organic after that?
I think you definitely, in our situation, you definitely need, there has to be somebody driving it. 100%.
Most definitely you need someone driving it. Starting it as quickly as possible, and I think really be understanding that not everyone's going to be able to make every meeting. Some people are going to have workplace challenges that mean that they can't be there all the time. But it's a slow process. Don't expect an overnight success, but celebrate the wins that you do have. I mean, most of us have venues where there's beer and food. Invite people in for one. It's amazing what happens when that you start being neighbourly and the outcomes are always positive for sure.
So we've hit 20 minutes of our 30-minute allocated slot, which is perfect because now there's the opportunity for anyone to ask any questions or for you guys to add anything else that you think would be sort of really worthwhile, both for the folks in the room and the folks who are going to be watching this on camera in the future.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
You've moved on to something else that's sort of a collective in a different sense, which is the Local Drinks Collective. Do you want to tell us sort of why that's a bit different but still in that collaborative working together space?
Yeah, so we, Batch and Wayward formed a Local Drinks Collective, what is it? Is it close to a year ago now? We had been discussing it for some time. I think where this version of working together is good is because I very much believe that the industry needs to look at consolidation. We need to, and this is where some industry associations can help each other. But there's things like sales teams working together, or breweries working together to get more efficiency, or buying power for malt and cans and all that kind of stuff, or negotiating your energy or whatever it is. But we, Batch and Wayward were of the opinion that we needed to, that's where we thought the market was going, and we realized that we had a good working relationship together from the IWBA, and that we wanted to start looking at ways to create a more sustainable business model as we're going through turbulent times. So, we're close to a year into it now, and it's working well. We still have more to do. We are looking at bringing on more breweries, and I think that it allows us to, like, for example, Batch is not. I never expected Batch to be this massive national brand, and I don't think it will be. I think maybe Elsie the Milk Stout might actually end up getting national distribution sometime. That's my hope. But basically, it allows certain brands to maintain a local presence while getting, and this is the vision, while being able to still get the scale of a bigger brewery, and that a bigger brewery can bring. But I think it's important not to lose who you are and what you stand for, and I think that this model allows us to do that. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on a random tangent there, but
the collaboration's giving you that opportunity, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And those things are great. When you get a few breweries together and collaborate on a project, and the New Zealand trip, for example, could mean a shared pallet that goes over, splitting those costs with freight. A lot of the breweries have teamed up, whether it might be a local ginger beer guy or a local distiller, and set up a combined bar at a one-off event. So there's lots of other opportunities that come out of that collaboration, I think, too, and working together on smaller projects. Yeah. But it only happens when you start getting together and talking to them.
Most definitely.
Yeah, take the little wins and roll it into something bigger.
Yeah.
Any questions from you? Really highly engaged, super excited to be here, late afternoon audience? Awesome.
Great.
Hey, we're in time. I got strict instructions that the AI talk on at 4 p.m. I couldn't run late, so we're running early. The guys are around, but our key takeaway, and I've had this conversation with lots of folks, is they don't know how to get started, and the answer is just get started over a beer. Just invite everybody around for a beer and see where it takes you. Thanks for your time this afternoon, everyone.